This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Harts Webinar, the latest one in our series of our fortnightly webinars. I'm glad you can join us this morning. We have delighted to have with us Yasmin and Marie from Synergy Recruitment, which is a full-service recruitment agency based in Macclesfield. And they're going to be giving their insights on the current position in relation to all sorts of stuff relating to staff retention, how to hire the best staff, what you need to do to get the best staff, and so on. So it could be very useful for everybody. First of all, though, what we normally do is give you an update of what's happening in the world in relation to the tax and accountancy world. If you've got any questions as we're going along, you'll see a speech bubble in the top right hand corner of your screen. Feel free to chuck in any questions you might have in there and we'll answer them as we're going along. Or alternatively, you can just unmute yourself, stick your camera on and just shout out questions. It's all very interactive. The session's being recorded and will appear on our YouTube channel later on today. So if you miss anything, you can catch up with it. And it will also be given to Synergy as well. They'll be using it for their purposes as well. So you can go onto their website as well. If you've missed any previous webinars, we have our own YouTube channel at Harts Limited, with limited spelt in full. Go along to there and you'll be able to see whatever you want on various topics over the last 2 years. We also have some podcasts being released over the next few weeks on all sorts of interesting subjects, so watch out for those. Right, let's crack on. We have to shout out our usual disclaimer. So the following presentation is produced for general guidance only, and professional advice should always be sought before any transaction is undertaken. Individual circumstances can vary and therefore no responsibility can be accepted by Harts Limited or any of their affiliates for any action taken or any decision made to refrain from action by attendees of this presentation. Sounds like reading out the terms and conditions on one of the quiz shows, but there we go. A quick update, as most people will aware, but if you're not, the national insurance threshold is increasing, but only from July, and it's linking with the income tax threshold as well. And we've got penny off income tax, but it's not until 2024. Is that going to be an election sweetener? Almost certainly, and with what's going on in politics at the moment, they need all the help they can certainly get. I mean, it's a bit of a shambles at the moment with everything that's going on. Whatever your position is on the right or the left or even in the middle, I think things aren't great out there. The employment allowance has increased to £5,000 from now, so take advantage of that. And no doubt people who will start to get paid in the next few days, coming to the end of the month, will see that national insurance has gone up by 1.25%. So you will get a bit less in your pay packet, and that's on top of the cost of living squeeze. Finally, make use of this super deduction that's out there. So if you're buying any fixed assets, you can get 130% relief. Make sure you can get that because it's well worth it. That only runs for another 12 months. A quick update on what HMRC are up to at the moment. One thing I'll just pick out there, which is about fourth, fifth down on the list. They've started to issue assessments to taxpayers if you've overclaimed your self-employed grant, which you would have had as a support grant. And they're saying now you've got to appeal or pay it within 30 days. So they are on attack with that. They are reviewing whether you should have had the grant or not, because it was a self-certified grant for the last couple of payments. So you need to be aware of that. As always, they're on the attack for child benefit. So if you've overclaimed child benefit because one of you is earning over 50,000 a year, then they are also looking at that. It's easy pickings for them. And the job retention scheme payments, they're looking at that and looking at proposals to make company directors personally liable. And no doubt you've seen in the press, there's a lot more information on it coming out now, where people have claimed bounce back loans and CBILS loans, and potentially they shouldn't have done. So, you've got to be aware of that. Now's the time to come clean if you want to say, well, I shouldn't have taken that bounce back loan, because there's a lot in the press about it at the moment. So just be aware of that. And the Let Property campaign is still ongoing. This is a long-standing campaign by HMRC. So if you've got property and you've not declared the rental income from it, now's the time to come clean. There is a very favourable settlement opportunity, very favourable penalties. So please get in touch if you need any further details on any of that. Happy to help you on all of that. Please make sure you make use of our resources. You can follow us on LinkedIn at Harts Limited. You've got our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us at Harts Limited and follow us on Twitter at Harts Accountants. Or is that going to be Elon Musk having a go at us on there as well? Because he's now looking at buying that as well, isn't he? So we'll see what he has effect on Harts. Hopefully he can ignore us. Our next webinars in a fortnight's time, we are looking at property letting. There's a lot of questions we get asked on this in relation to should you buy it personally, should you put it through a limited company, what can I claim for, how does the mortgage interest work, and so on. We'll be looking at all of those aspects for you. And then the 26th of May, we'll be looking at research and development claims, what actually constitutes a claim, why it's so beneficial to actually make a claim, and the fact that HMRC are now reviewing all the terms and conditions because they think they're giving away too much money. And then finally on 9th of June, how to prepare a marketing plan. One of the things we often work with businesses is looking at business advisory, working with them over a period of a few years. And many businesses don't actually have a marketing plan. So it's a good opportunity to see what should be in one and how you can prepare one. If you want to log on to any of these webinars or book on, just go to our website, have a look on the events page, and you can book on there on Eventbrite. They're all free. So that's what we've got at the moment. We'll be bringing out our new session of seminars after the summer break, and we'll be putting on some very interesting stuff. And again, watch out for those podcasts which are coming. That's more than enough from me. So I'm now going to hand over to Yasmin and Marie, and they're going to talk to us all about recruitment. You are now made the presenters, so you can share your screen. There we go. Perfect.
We're showing at a later stage of this. Here we go, showing our secrets already. Right, can you all see that?
Yes, we can see that. That's perfect.
Okay,
brilliant. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. My name's Marie. I'm a director at Synergy Recruitment in Macclesfield.
And I'm Yasmin, also a director at Synergy.
And as Stephen's mentioned, we are looking at the very topical subject of staff retention. So how to retain and recruit staff in the current marketplace. So before we go into that, I suppose it'd be good just to sort of tell you a bit more about who we are and what we do. So we set Synergy Recruitment up back in October 2018, and we recruit for commercial office-based positions across Cheshire and South Manchester, and it's on a permanent, temporary and contract basis that we will recruit for. But we're not here just to fill jobs. We do much more than that. We take a consultative approach. So with all of our clients, we will come out, meet with them in the first instance, get to understand their business, the current setup, their teams, talk about the vacancy that they're looking to recruit for, and offer advice, because sometimes there needs to be tweaks in terms of what you are looking for, or maybe the package. So we will do like a whole analysis really and give you our feedback, and then go ahead to find the perfect fit for you really for that particular vacancy. And I suppose you might be wondering why we made that decision 3.5 years ago to set up yet another recruitment agency. So why did we decide to do that, Yasmin?
Why did we? Well, we met at an agency that we worked at previously, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I think basically we just decided that we could do it better. For us, recruitment really should be about the people that we work with. So making sure that we find a long-term role for our candidates, making sure that we find the perfect fit for our clients. And, it's not about how many CVs can you throw at a wall until something sticks. We work with people and that's what we care about. So I think really we wanted to prove that you could run a recruitment agency successfully and do it still whilst caring about the people that you work with. So we've done all right, haven't we?
Yeah, not too bad.
So today's webinar is in two parts. So part one, we will be going through how to retain your staff. And part two, we will be talking through how to recruit in the current market.
Yeah.
So we will jump right ahead to staff retention.
Yes, staff retention. So yeah, we're going to discuss the Great Resignation, which some of you may have heard of. We'll then be talking through why do people leave their jobs, and finally, what can you do to retain your staff? So I don't know, has anybody, I'll throw it out there, has any of you heard of the Great Resignation and know what it is? No? Right, okay, that's just
No,
thought I'd ask.
I've not heard of it, no.
No. Well, it was actually a phrase that was coined by a US professor called Anthony Klotz back in 2020. And basically, Anthony Klotz predicted that there would be this mass resignation from people due to 4 particular trends. So he predicted that there will be an existing backlog of resignations. So as we all know, with the pandemic, there has been a lot of uncertainty in our lives. We didn't know what would be happening in the future. So people held back from handing in their resignation. So he sort of predicted that once we get through the other side, there will then be this backlog and a high amount of people that will decide to leave their positions. There's also widespread burnout. He predicted people will also be reevaluating their priorities and their values, and it's not just going to be about work. It'll be looking at other areas like, you know, your family, your friends. And he predicted there will be a reluctance to give up remote working. As we all know, we had to make a very quick decision to go from working in the office to then working at home, and there may be that reluctance to go back to the office once we're allowed to do so.
Mm-hmm. So this was predicted over in America, and they have seen this en masse. And now we are starting to see it happening in the UK. So Sanjay Raja, chief UK economist at Deutsche Bank, said that people are resigning currently at the highest rate since 2009, with historically elevated levels of workers leaving the labour market entirely. And Robert Half, a global recruitment firm, did a study, and they found that nearly a third of employees will look for a new job between January and June this year, which is 9.4 million workers across the UK.
Yes, quite a lot. So, why are people looking to leave their jobs? Before we jump into this, does anyone have any ideas why they think people might want to leave their positions?
Money.
Yeah. Good.
Good guess there, Stephen.
Work-life balance.
Yeah.
Anybody else wants to chip in?
Exhaustion.
Yeah, burnout. Yeah. So, well, let's click onto it. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. The same study that Robert Half did, 42% of people said that they would, potentially leave for more money. 25% for career opportunity, 24% for more flexibility, 23% reevaluated their priorities, and 22% moving to a different field altogether. And the last one there is 21% is to do with the benefits that are on offer.
And then obviously we spend all day every day speaking to candidates. So in addition to that, we hear all the time kind of why people are looking to leave their positions. So common ones that we hear are bad managers or a bad company culture, no progression, no recognition, burnout, obviously, as you just mentioned there, kind of people that are exhausted, looking for a better work-life balance, absolutely, Stephen. So yeah, I guess these are the reasons, but what can you do, hopefully, to prevent that happening in your workplace?
Absolutely. So, Wild Goose UK conducted a UK employee support and retention study where they asked employees from 133 different UK companies a series of questions, and one of which being what companies could do to better retain their employees. And these are the insights. So just to go through a few of them. So the top one, 55% of the respondents said employers should increase staff's pay to meet the industry standards. 53% said businesses should provide a better work-life balance. 49% said employers should offer opportunities to progress in the company. 33% said simply receiving more constructive and positive feedback from management. and then you can see the others on there. I just want to sort of highlight though, interestingly, the bottom one at 13% is that businesses should continue to offer hybrid or remote working. So we might not necessarily think that would be as low as it is, but that could be perhaps because the employees were already doing this sort of in the first place, really.
Yeah, so we've kind of pulled together 5 ideas of things that you could do to help to retain your staff. So we'll expand on these, but number 1, listen to your employees. Number 2, reward and recognition. Number 3, invest in people. Number 4, focus on staff wellbeing. And number 5, create a good culture. So we'll jump into these now. So firstly, why is it important to listen to your employees? So according to a worldwide study conducted by the Workforce Institute at UKG in 2021, 63% of employees feel that their voice has been ignored at work, and 1 in 3 employees would rather quit or switch teams than voice their concerns to management, which we felt was quite staggering, really. Now, why is that important? Well, when people feel that their voices are not heard, they become disengaged, and that is a problem because high levels of engagement are consistently associated with higher levels of employee retention. So if your employees feel heard, they're more likely to be engaged with their role and your business, and therefore they are more likely to stay. Interestingly as well, according to that study, organisations are far more likely to perform well financially when their employees feel heard and engaged. So it really works for the benefits of both sides, really, to listen to your employees.
Yeah, it's a win-win for both parties, isn't it? So how to listen? Ask for feedback and ask for it regularly. This could be one-to-ones, it could be appraisals, it could be that you conduct a survey, because you can conduct surveys that are anonymised, so people feel that they can be completely truthful about how they're feeling. But it's really important that your staff have the opportunity to feedback to you about how they're feeling, not just as well about any quibbles or moans. It could be that they want to speak to you and to make suggestions and on how to improve things. So it's really important just to give them that space to do that. Thanks, Jasmine. Secondly, exit interviews. It is really invaluable to carry out an exit interview with anybody that's leaving your business to try and understand what has prompted them to find a new position or to leave. You'll be surprised how many clients we'll speak to. They've maybe had a role and they have needed to refill it quite a number of times, and we ask them, what's the reason for this? And they don't want to look internally or don't feel that there's anything wrong with their setup or their management or anything. It's all based on sort of like the candidate or the person that's leaving. But actually, if there is an issue within the business, it's better for you to know so that you can deal with it to prevent any other people then leaving because of that potential issue. And then thirdly, ensure management is accessible. Have an open door policy. Let your staff feel like they can come, whether it's to you or if it's a HR manager or their line manager, but that they know that they can come to you about anything, because it really will help to keep those staff engaged and happy, and therefore to stay with you.
Absolutely. So moving on to our second point, reward and recognition. Obviously, it has always been important to reward and recognise your staff, but I think even more so at the minute, as we've talked about, people are burnt out. People are, in some cases where recruitment is difficult for companies, staff are taking on a lot more of the workload. So yeah, it's really important to kind of show that you appreciate that and you're recognising that that's happening. I guess most obvious way of doing this, absolutely you need to be paying market rate salaries at the moment, and you will probably need to do a bit of research because these likely have increased over at least the last 6 to 8 months to a year. So yeah, it's because of the difficulties in recruiting, the competition is high, a lot of companies are having to increase salaries in order to attract staff, and therefore if your staff member can see that they could do exactly the same job just down the road for a lot more money, unfortunately they might be tempted to leave. So at least, yeah, you need to be paying the market rate salaries to your staff. Second thing is having a look at your benefits. And I'm afraid to say that your standard entitlement, 20 days plus bank holidays, it just isn't really enough anymore. You know, people really take that into account. Obviously, people are looking a lot more now for a work-life balance. So we hear candidates all the time saying that they want, you know, more holidays. It's an important thing for people. So yeah, I think just offering what the standard is that you have to offer, it doesn't go any way towards showing that you genuinely see the need to reward your staff for the work that they're doing. Also, it's obviously to the benefit of you as well. We all know that, you know, being well rested and having a good break means that we are doing better in work. So it, yeah, hopefully will help out with the burnout issue that we've been talking about. Recognition schemes, so you know, putting things in place to reward people when they're achieving goals and targets, to show them that you're really acknowledging the fact that that's happening. So that can be Employee of the Month, it can be offering vouchers when they've achieved certain things. Importantly, we just wanted to say here that rewarding your staff, it does not have to cost the earth. You know, little things go a really long way. So, you know, getting pizzas into the office on a Friday because everybody's worked really hard that week, or letting somebody leave half an hour early because you realise that they've done a really good job for you, or, you know, as we mentioned, kind of offering vouchers and things. The small things really can make a difference to showing that you're genuinely acknowledging that your team are working really hard for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember one of my previous employers, you know, we might have had a particularly busy week and he'd seen that I've been working long hours, and then he just came over on a Friday and would say, right, I know you've worked really hard this week. You and your other half go out for a meal, bring me the receipt and I'll pay the bill, or go and get yourself a couple of bottles of Prosecco tonight. But it still sticks in my mind to this day. So it wasn't huge amounts of money that I was being given, but it's that recognition. You know, the management has noticed that you have been putting the hours in, you've been, you know, really sort of doing everything you can. So it's just a small perk, isn't it?
Yes.
So thirdly, invest in your people. So we do quite often hear from candidates when they're, you know, when we're asking them why they're leaving, or what is the motivation, what's important to them from a new role, and it is to sort of do something new, to learn, to grow, because they can become stagnant if you don't give them you know, the opportunities to develop. So sit down with your team and find out what motivates them, and what specific goals do they have, and support them with their goals. Because once people are achieving those goals, they're going to feel happier in themselves, they're going to be more engaged, and again, they're going to want to stay. Offer learning and development opportunities. So it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody wants to become the next manager within the business. It might well be that they feel rusty on Excel and they would like a refresher course, or they would like to do another qualification that will enhance them and the job that they're doing, and also help with yourselves at work. So it's just about keeping people motivated. People like to learn, they like to grow and develop, and also it is a good way for yourselves to fill the skills gap. Because if you are struggling with a particular position and you are upskilling your staff to do additional duties, then they can cover whilst you are recruiting the next person. So it will again be a win-win for yourselves and for your employees.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, we could not do a webinar about staff retention without talking about the incredibly hot topic of staff wellbeing. I just wanted to explain a little bit, I guess, why this is such a prominent thing, I suppose, at the moment. So in the 2022 annual workplace predictions from the Workforce Institute at UKG, that's a bit of a mouthful, they predict that this year there will be an increasing employee apathy towards the workplace. The reasons for this, obviously, we've all been going through the pandemic. It's forced us to continually deal with interrupted personal and working lives. We've had to have an insane amount of resilience for what seems like a very long time, and probably more than we ever have done before. So burnout is rife. You know, people have kind of reached the end of their tethers, and therefore people's priorities have changed. You know, it's not all about kind of goals and long-term progression and all the rest of it within your careers. People are now prioritising their own preservation and self-care. So it's really important for businesses, therefore, to offer that person-centric approach and to aid their staff in kind of being able to find that work-life balance that people need. So one way to do this, obviously, offering as much flexibility as you possibly can. So, you know, if you have a great worker who works really hard for you, but they need to leave half an hour early on a day because they want to go and pick the kids up, but they've maybe said that they can work the rest of the half an hour from home, why not allow them to do that if it doesn't majorly impact your business? You know, giving people that opportunity to do things that keep them happy. Listening to your staff and spotting burnout, you know, as we've talked about, this is something that's going to become more and more prominent. So doing whatever you can really to relieve the pressure. If you can reallocate workload, if somebody is really struggling, you know, giving them a day off, you know, enforcing that if they really need it. It would obviously be better for them to have that one day and kind of refresh and come back ready to work, than kind of really working themselves into the ground and having to have a few weeks off maybe. So yeah, where you can kind of relieve that pressure. Obviously, wellbeing it's both physical and mental. So one of the things that we offer, for example, our staff is gym memberships. We know how much physical health helps us mentally, so that's something that we offer. We've had clients offer mindfulness courses. We have one client that does yoga in the office every Wednesday. So yeah, there's lots of different things and ways that you can help with this. Something that we're absolutely terrible at is taking lunch breaks. So we all know how important it actually is to take a break in the middle of the day. So enforcing that, making sure that your team don't sit at the desk to eat the lunch, they get away, they have a break, they get outside, you know, because it's all kind of helps towards their kind of mental well-being, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just ask a question? Could you just go back to the previous slide, please? Is something, there you go, something that I know at Harts we've done, we put on mindfulness courses and we enforce lunch breaks and so on. When you're giving this flexibility, do you find productivity goes up or goes down or remains the same? Or if your people want to work flexi hours and so on, do you find that are companies finding that the productivity declines because of that, or does it improve? What's your experience of that?
We don't have any specific stats to sort of provide on this, but just from speaking to our clients, I think by offering these things, you're engaging your staff, and it's about reciprocation. So if you are being flexible and letting somebody leave half an hour early to go and pick the child up, or you know, you're putting these courses on and it is improving people's physical and mental well-being, you know, they'll reciprocate and they'll put the work in, and it's treating people as well just like adults and putting trust into the employees to go, you know what you need to do in order to fulfill your duties in your job role, you know, and trusting them to do it, you know, and they'll then get on with it because they appreciate it, rather than it being, you know, really rigid and, you know, you've got to work through your lunch, because they just become disenchanted and burnt out, as we keep saying, really. So then the productivity definitely does decline.
Okay, thank you.
That's all right. So point 5 then finally is about creating a good culture in your business, and this is an ongoing task, and it involves every employee at every level. And we often speak to candidates that when we're asking them that you know, what is the reason that you're leaving this particular position, and it might well be down to the poor management style, or that, you know, they're not happy with the culture within the business and they want to go somewhere where they feel listened to and it's a more positive culture. And I think with regards to sort of, we've put on there about management training, sometimes people within businesses are promoted into a managerial role because of the number of years that they've been with the business, rather than if they've got the right skill set to be a good manager. Or in our industry, if you're the top biller, then quite often you then naturally become a manager, but they don't offer any training. And as we know from having our staff, you know, it does take particular skill sets, and it's really, everybody, you know, needs to be managed in a different way, and you need to look out for different things. So if somebody is being promoted into a managerial position, putting them on that management training course, you're obviously benefiting them, they're learning and developing, as we've mentioned before, but also you're more likely to then have somebody who's managing their team in the right way. The team is therefore happier, wants to stay, and all those other points that we've talked about, sort of points 1 to 4 prior to this point, all of that goes towards making it a great working environment. And if you've got a great working environment and a good culture, they feel listened to, they're not burnt out, you'll then have your staff staying with you rather than looking at the company down the road and what they're offering and then jumping ship.
Absolutely. So that kind of concludes part one about how to retain staff. So we're going to jump into part two, which is how to recruit staff during the current market. So we'll start out by talking about what the current market actually is like, and then kind of lead into what you can do to recruit staff.
Yeah. So the current recruitment market, you'll actually be surprised to know after all that conversation about the Great Resignation, it's actually a candidate-driven market at the moment. And what that means is there are far, far, far more jobs than there are good candidates to fill them. So you basically, there's so many businesses out there that are all recruiting right now that there just isn't the supply to fill all of those positions. The demand is way out.
Yeah, absolutely. So brace yourself, guys. I'm going to show you a graph.
Yeah, the graphs.
We're doing some graphs now. So this is a graph produced by the Office for National Statistics. So this shows the number of vacancies in the UK, and it is seasonally adjusted, as you can see at the bottom, to show January to March of each year. So from this, you can absolutely see the dramatic increase in vacancies at the beginning of this year, or the first quarter of this year, versus the first quarter of previous years, right back to 2004. Essentially, as we've seen, but a lot of businesses bounce back all at the same time, and a lot of companies therefore immediately have gone to recruit at exactly the same time to just unprecedented levels. So essentially, there is just no way that the supply can meet the demand, even if a lot of people are quitting their positions. There's just a lot of competition out there for those good people. This second graph shows that. So this is from the Recruitment and Employment Confederation's report on jobs. So this actually is data up to February 2022. And I'm just going to point out this end bit here really just to show you that this is sort of the blue line, in fact, is permanent placements in the beginning of this year. So as you can see, you would expect that with that many vacancies, that permanent placements would be increasing. But however, they are actually shrinking. And that is just because there are not enough people to meet the demand that's out there. As well as this, they also found that permanent starter salaries rose at the second sharpest rate since data collection began in October 1997. Obviously, as we all know, supply and demand, if there is not enough supply and too much demand, then prices increase, something we're all learning a lot about at the moment. But yeah, so salaries are increasing therefore. So
what can you do about it? So we're just going to go through some points now. Salary. Okay, so no surprise there then. So basically, if you've got a vacancy, the first thing we would recommend that you do is do a bit of research and find out what the market rate is at the moment, because the chances are it's changed from the last time that you've recruited. So go on to Indeed as an example, find a similar role in the local area and see what your competitors are paying, and pay the same. If you can pay more, brilliant, because then you've got a greater chance of attracting more candidates. But the thing to just remember is when people are looking for a job, they have got lots available to them. So if you aren't paying the market rate, they won't even click onto your advert. They will just be going on to the other ones that are paying the market rate or more. Now, if you can't afford to pay the market rate, then one thing that you could do is maybe look to lower your expectations. So if you were ideally looking for somebody, with years of experience, can you reduce that? Can you look at somebody that doesn't have quite as much experience, but focusing on somebody that's bright, switched on, that's got the right personality, attitude, disposition? Because remember, you can train them on a particular software, you can train them on certain procedures and processes. And if you've got somebody that's really eager and bright and willing to learn, they can pick all of that up, and they'll want to be like a sponge and soak it up and do well for you. Another option that you could have is looking to recruit an apprentice. But the one thing that I will say about that is if you are looking to recruit an apprentice, they have no experience, obviously, because they're an apprentice and it's new to them. They do require a lot of time and investment and support. So if you don't have that, then don't go down the apprenticeship route. And thirdly, what you can do is look at widening your pool. Now, what we mean by that is, can you offer your role on a purely remote basis? Because then you've got the whole country that you can be looking for candidates for. Or if you can't offer it remotely, can you do hybrid working? Because that'll just mean that instead of having to look, say, at candidates that are in a 10-mile radius from where your office is, you can extend that to maybe 15 to 20 miles because they're only coming in for 2-3 days per week. So all in all, as it says in pink there and underlined, you need to think outside of the box these days. Gone are the days where you can place an advert, get lots of applications and just cherry pick the best ones.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you've done that, once you've decided on your salary, you have hopefully been as flexible as possible. Now you've got to attract people. So we're going to go through how to write a good job advert and get people interested in your position. The first and most important thing to note here is that it is an advert. It amazes us that the job advertising industry seems to be the only version of advertising where we spend more time talking about what we want out of the people reading it, our advert, than actually attracting them to it. So yeah, you've got to get across the reasons why somebody should want to come and work for you. That's the most important thing. So having a good think about why should somebody leave their job to come and work for you. And that is obviously the benefits and the salaries, but actually just as important as we've talked about is the culture of your business, the environment there, the team that they'll be working with, you know, all of the things that hopefully will make somebody think that's the right place for me. Now, if you can't think of any reasons why somebody might want to leave their job to come and work for you, maybe need to evaluate things there, but have a chat with your current team, you know, find out what it is that they enjoy about working there and kind of get those things across and put those things first. That is the very first thing that you want to tell people who have clicked onto your advert, because that's how you win them over and get them to want to work for you. Using the word you, not us. This sounds like a really small thing, but you want to talk directly to your reader. You know, spending hours and hours and hours talking we, us, you know, it doesn't attract them. You want to talk to them and make them feel like they're a part of it and you're talking to them. Cutting the jargon. This is a really big one actually, and a lot of businesses do this in their adverts. So especially if you are open to considering people that don't work within your sector, if you have an advert packed full of industry specific jargon, people are going to read that and think, I can't do that job because I don't understand what any of those words mean. So cut that and think about what are the actual elements of that role, so that people can see what their transferable skill sets are to your position. And finally, you should try and keep your list of requirements as small as possible. And absolutely, there is no need to put desirables on there. So it is a thing really that people, particularly women apparently according to studies, are less likely to apply for a job if they don't tick every single box that is on there. So even if to you it's a desirable and something that doesn't even actually matter, to them, if they see it on there and they don't have it, they maybe won't apply for the position. So you could be putting somebody off that you actually think could do the job. So there's just no need for desirables on your advert really.
Yeah.
So
now that you've written your great advert and you've attracted candidates and they're applying, don't lose them. Okay, so move quickly. As we've mentioned before, because there's so many opportunities out there for candidates, they're not just applying to your job, they're applying to 3, 4, 5 other companies. So think about your interview process. You know, if you usually have a 3-stage interview process, that needs to be cut down straight away, ideally to 1 stage, but if it's going to be 2, make sure the time in between the interviews is not long, because if a candidate's going for another position and that company moves quickly, offers them the job, they won't even wait to hear back from yourself. The chances are they'll just accept it. So make sure once you've got somebody, you move quickly. Interviews are for candidates as well. They're there to assess you as well as you assessing them. Okay, so what you want to be doing at the interview stage is getting across all those great things that we talked about at the beginning of your advert. So about your culture and your team and the perks that you offer and why it's great to come and work for you, because that you're going to get them excited and interested in thinking, yeah, I want to go and work for that company, not the one down the road. And then finally, if you do find somebody and you're going to offer them quickly, remember, don't lowball them, okay? It's a really competitive market. So, you know, pay them the going rate. We had a situation recently where a role was advertised up to 23,000 and the candidate that we'd sent wanted 21, and the client had offered at the interview and offered them 20. And it just leaves a bit of a bad taste in the candidate's mouth, you know, for the sake of, what is it, £80 a month that would have cost the client. They lost out on that candidate because they then went to another role that paid them what they were looking for. So if you finally got somebody, just pay them
That's
the
it.
going
Because in
rate.
that case, it is only a small amount of money, but it's the principle. If you give the impression that that's what it's like at this stage, people will feel like it will always be difficult for them to get the salaries that they feel that they're worth. So yeah, if you don't think that the candidate is worth the salary that they're asking for, don't even bring them to interview.
Yeah.
You know, in the first place, that's the point really. So that's all from us really, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you've gained some useful information. And absolutely, if you've got any questions, we're open.
Yeah, happy to answer anything.
Thank you very much indeed. That was absolutely fascinating. Some of those statistics are really insightful and helpful for those of us looking to recruit staff and retain staff. It's certainly an eye-opener for me. Has anybody got any questions they want to ask or chip in? Feel free to unmute yourself or just shout out. Now's your opportunity. Or if you don't feel like you want to shout out, feel free just to put it in the chat box. We haven't got anything in there at the moment. But certainly, no, that was great. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having us.
Right.
And if anyone, you know, at a later date wants any advice or anything, feel free to give us a call at the office or drop us an email and we'll be happy to have a chat about anything.
Absolutely. The Synergy Recruitment based in Macclesfield, feel free to get in touch with them and ask them anything that you want. It just remains for me to say thank you enormously to Yasmin and Marie from Synergy Recruitment for giving us this insightful information on the recruitment market, how to retain staff and how to attract staff. If you want to go over anything, it's all going to be on our YouTube channel later on today. And it's absolutely fantastic that we were able to put these on. Look out for our next one on the 12th of May on property letting and pitfalls and so on. Please feel free to log on for that. But thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks
for coming on.